You're listening to The Restaurant Grind, the podcast of small business restaurateurs. Today we have Ernie Mellow, the owner and pitmaster of Hog Wild Memphis BBQ. He has been in business for over 27 years with his catering A Movable Feast as well. He has done a lot for the community and we appreciate him being here. Ernie, how did it all begin 20 years ago?
Well, we started in the catering business 27 years ago, and I jumped in with a couple of cinder blocks tied to my feet. And anyhow, we started out just me and did about $100,000 the first year in catering, and then it's grown every year since.
How did you get into the barbecue game? Like, what made you open up a catering business?
Well, I've been cooking barbecue since my mid-teens. I'd moved to South Carolina, and things weren't working out there, and I called a friend of mine, and he said, "What are you going to do?" I said, "Well, that's why I'm calling you to get some ideas." And I said, "But I think if I'm going to get my barbecue spark back, now's the time to do it." And he said, "What are you thinking?" I said, "I think I can do it in catering." He said, "Well, get home and let's do it." And
that's a good kick in the butt.
It was. And
yeah.
So we came home. I came home, and that's what I did.
That's awesome.
Part of that was in high school, we would cater or we would cook barbecue and throw these big parties.
Yeah.
Right in the middle of Germantown with beer trucks and
Perfect.
The whole 9 yards.
Why aren't you still doing that? That sounds good.
We got in a little bit of trouble a time or two. And then cooked barbecue in college. And then I was working for Morgan Keegan right out of school. And a buddy called and said, "Hey, man, we want you to be on our barbecue team." And I said, "What does it take?" He said, $100. I said, "What does it give me?" He said, "All the barbecue you can eat, all the beer you can drink, and a porta potty to piss in."
I'm in. That sounds great. What a deal.
And if you think back to the old Memphis and May, and all those festivals, there were no porta johns.
Yeah.
And so you were
drinking with nowhere to go.
Right. And so the porta john was worth $100.
That's right.
So I get on this team and I'm saying, my efforts are best in the kitchen. So I'm helping the guys that have been cooking. And I said, "What are we cooking on?" And he said, "Well, my dad's got this guy that retired and just built this pit, and he's going to let us use it." And then we're getting closer and closer to Memphis May, and we've kind of perfected this sauce stuff. And he had cooked with John Wills, and had a rough sheet, and we just took that. It wasn't John Wills' barbecue sauce, but it turned into mine. And he calls me up, and he goes, "Hey, I'm in the doghouse, and my wife's dragging me to Destin, Florida. Tag, you're it."
No pit.
And I've cooked a lot of shoulder, but I've never cooked a whole hog, and we were competing in whole hog. So I go to Feinberg Packing, get a pig ripped down the middle, and finally called this guy, and I said, "Hey, I think you've got a barbecue pit that you're going to let us use?" He goes, "Yeah." So I'll go down and find him just across the Mississippi border, and real nice gentleman, and hooked it up and took it to my condo, and he came up and we kind of tweaked it. And that was on the Friday night before barbecue of the next week. Mm-hmm. And we didn't load in until Wednesday. And so I'd cooked my first half hog the week prior to my first Memphis in May.
That's awesome. How'd you do?
Well, we didn't finish last.
There we go.
And the guys on the team go, "Best damn barbecue we've ever had." And so the next year I got two of my real close friends on the team, and the following year it kind of fell into my lap, and that was 1986. So I'm now the oldest tenured guy, pitmaster on the park at Memphis and May.
Wow.
Awesome. So I'm not the only guy in town, but I do know a little bit.
Yep.
A lot. And so from that 1986 start, how did you decide to start a brick and mortar of Hog Wild?
Me and my buddies were catering. We're in a suit and coat.
At Morgan Keegan.
Right. 4 or 5 times a year, we'd pull up in your driveway on Friday night, stay up all night, drink beer, cook barbecue, and serve your party the next night. And it was fun. It was a lot of work. Sundays were no fun because you're at the end of the driveway with a sponge and a bucket of Dawn, scrubbing all the stuff down. A little different now. But fast forward, I wore a suit for 15, 16 years in professional sales, and took this leap of faith, I guess, or stupidity into the food business.
Typical entrepreneur. Half smart, half stupid. Sometimes we don't know which one we're choosing.
So the question is, well, have you ever worked in a restaurant? No, I have never worked in a restaurant prior to this, but I've come from a food family. Brother-in-law's a chef. Moms and grandmoms and sisters are all excellent cooks, and I started cooking bacon and eggs at 7 years old, and da-da-da-da. And with a business background, I felt like I could do what I needed to do. And it's a different animal, I'll just tell you that.
Never stops, does it?
No, it doesn't. And it's been fun. It's been good. It's been challenging. It's been rewarding. Still tough, every day.
Absolutely.
Tell me about those first few years. How did it go?
It went well. I spent less than a year my wife and I weren't married. She had an extra bedroom where I was working out of her house and living with mom and dad. Started looking for a place to put a kitchen in. I thought I was going to build a kitchen in a warehouse. And I already had my dry rub being produced down in North Memphis. And I'm sitting in Jim Lindsay's office, and I'm telling him I'm looking for a place to put a kitchen. And he goes, "Hey, man, that building right across the street, it's a food service place. Been vacant for 5 years." This place was huge.
Yeah.
And I'm going, man, I'm not afraid of downtown, but this is deep in the hood.
This is North Memphis.
This is Danny Thomas and Firestone.
Yeah.
And
that's why it's been vacant.
So I had several friends with different companies in the commercial real estate business, and they all said, "Yeah, we'll ride down there with you." And so we go look at the building, and they're like, "You're a fool not to move in here." So my rent is the least of my worries on a daily basis.
Yeah.
I've got 10,000 feet, $1.55 a square foot. Has not changed in 27 years.
That was a good lease.
Good lease.
So now moving to the catering, I was just looking, and then is that 8 years running best catering in Memphis?
It is. Now, we just finished runner-up, but so now I got to tweak that a little bit to finalists so, somebody doesn't think I'm arrogant.
Incredible.
No.
Yeah.
So we've got some cool accolades. What's more fun is some of the events that we've done.
Y'all do everything. Backyard barbecue to a wedding.
Yep. So my wife at some point, I guess in early 2000s, said, "Hey, Matt Patrick's wife's not going to call Hog Wild to do their daughter's wedding. You got to come up with another name." So we did, and we came up with, long story short, A Movable Feast, which is the title of a book that Ernest Hemingway wrote, but just kind of felt apropos. And there's some stories behind that. My brother-in-law was catering. He's a chef, was catering on the side with another gal, and that was their name. And back in the day, and then there was two guys that had that name, and I was trying to find them just to see if they were still in business or whatnot, and did all my homework, and they weren't. So we adopted the name. So we're one company with two names: Hog Wild, Real Memphis BBQ, and A Movable Feast. But anyway, you cut us, we're fat and happy.
That's right. I like it.
So Real Memphis BBQ, I believe there's a story. Did you invent the Memphis nachos, barbecue nachos? Or
I did. There's a little controversy with a good friend of mine, Walker Taylor. Two, which was over where Napa Cafe is, and Charlie Long, was in liquor sales, goes, "Hey man, the Redbirds are coming to town." I go, "Tell me about the Redbirds," because I
Who's that?
yeah.
what are
He goes, "Well, it's the St. Louis Cardinals AAA team." He said, "You need to put your barbecue in there." I said, "Yeah, I do." I said, "Who do I talk to?" He goes, "They just hired Jason McCauley, who was the food and beverage guy at the Racket Club. And so I got introduced to Jason, and he and I hit it off. And he said, "All right, you got to come in for an official interview. You're my guy, but come in for an official interview." And the question was, "Hey, man, can you be creative?" I go, "Yeah."
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I go, "I'm thinking barbecue nachos." And he goes, "What?" And I go, yeah, barbecue nachos. Really nice corn chips, my barbecue sauce, a really nice queso sauce, my dry rub, and a jalapeno on top. He goes, "You're crazy." I said, "Yeah, we're going to sell the woo-woo out of them, and we're going to do it in chicken too."
Yeah.
And, we had lines every ball game.
Yep.
Yes.
They're
Still.
my favorite thing in Memphis is
And
the barbecue nacho.
they're great, and everybody's are different because everybody's meat and sauce profiles are different.
But the chips are different, or they've done something with it.
Yeah.
Or,
And so we came up, one of my chefs years ago came up with this new chip idea, and he just took some herbed flour tortillas, like a wrap, and was cutting them up when they're deep fried them, and we used it as a garnish on a plated seated dinner coming out of the mashed potatoes or something. And we're like, these things are incredible. And so we just started.
they have to be thick enough to hold the barbecue. That's where some people messed it up, I think.
Yeah. So we used the corn chips, the corn tortilla chips forever. And then we started doing these, and these are actually flour, which in today's game still is great, but you have a lot of gluten-free folks you got to worry about, But we think that our barbecue nachos would stand against anybody's,
It should be a category at Memphis and May. It's part of the deal.
I got a new category. I've been thinking about it since I've been in Memphis. So chicken and waffles blew up. Memphis, I feel like if somebody could really do it, ribs and pancakes.
I love it.
So there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Ribs and pancakes.
Breakfast barbecue. You need another deal. It's hard to get barbecue on the breakfast menu. I like that idea.
That's great.
We'll be right back.
This episode is sponsored by the Memphis Restaurant Association, the Mid-South's key advocate for restaurant owners, managers, and employees alike, promoting the best dining experiences Memphis has to offer.
Business owners, do you have a clear picture of where all your money is? Are your taxes getting taken care of on time? Clarity and consistency are key when it comes to getting the most out of your books. With detailed monthly financials and ongoing advisory services, Patrick Accounting is here to help you make more money and keep more of it. Learn more at patrickaccounting.com.
Obviously, early on, I'm sure there was some growing pains and figuring stuff out and finding people on the team. We talked a little about early stages. What are you guys working on now?
Keeping our head afloat, right? I could have opened 2 more catering companies in the last several months. I've turned away so much business, and I'm still getting calls, and I'm still trying to
Labor
problems, yeah.
Trying to find the right people.
And it doesn't matter what industry you're in. It's still a challenge.
You're correct.
We found a few people here recently, and hopefully they'll work out. But mostly we need people on the front of the house side or the service side. Because we just don't have enough. We can do the food. We can crank the food out, but it's getting it out.
You guys have a sales team. How do you kind of hit the market other than just obviously no name now in town? Probably is plenty.
Honestly, we've been super blessed. I'm the sales guy. I've got a young lady named Andrea that helps, and I don't have to look for business.
Yeah, business is not the problem.
It is not. And
that's a good problem to have.
It is. It is a problem.
Yeah.
It truly is, because I fall down on my sales skills. I'm not out seeing my clients like I need to be, but it's a blessing.
Yeah.
Like I'll go to a Ducks Unlimited event tomorrow night with 300 that we're catering, and we're big partners with DU. And I'm just going to shake hands and kiss babies is what I call it, But I'm blessed to know a lot of people as well.
Yeah. What are you guys doing from a recruiting standpoint or interviewing process to get the best people on your team?
Right now, we just need warm bodies. We're not doing enough, I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, because that's one of the biggest part of it is if you even do just get the warm bodies, you get them in for a week or two and they don't turn out and have to do it all over again.
Yeah. So I've turned down a lot of plated, seated dinners. So think of a banquet or whatnot. And I pushed them to what I call seated buffet. So you do the place settings and the water at the table and the china and the silver, and then they go through a buffet. But occasionally I still have to hire temps, and you ask for 10 temps, and you get 5, and you hope that they work out.
Right.
And so the plated seats are challenging because I need anywhere from 5 to 8 people in the kitchen, and 10 to 15 or 20 on the floor to get the plates out there and bus and service the water, et cetera, et cetera.
You have a mobile front of house, which is hard. I mean, it's a hard hire.
Yeah.
Do you guys kind of consider your East location more the front of house crew, or do you they're not working full time every day?
Noon in March 2020, and the red light goes off. If you've ever been to a representative or a senator's
There's
office,
really a red light.
And the red light, and he goes, Ernie, I've got 15 minutes to get to the House floor. We got to vote on this coronavirus thing.
Like, what's that?
and we're all going, we've heard a little bit about it, yada, yada, yada. He came back to Memphis that night, and, we talked a little bit in the airport. The following Monday, I was getting calls canceling jobs.
Yeah, because you're not going to hold an event.
And in 3 days, I cleaned out 6 weeks of business. And I looked at my team and I said, I'm letting you all go effective right now. Go get on unemployment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do it now. Don't wait tomorrow. Don't wait till next week. Get on unemployment now. I said, we've applied for this something that's coming through the line, the PPP.
Yeah, at some point in the future at that. We didn't know when it's going to come.
And so my 5 key people hung with me. We went to home delivery and survived. We got the PPP money, and I put them back on payroll, and I kept everybody off until, and I hope I calculated it right, I brought them back in August to run the money out in October. And that worked. And then we were able to survive through the end of the year. And then the next round hit.
BPP2 and then ERC and all the things that kind of help.
And so I tell you all that to say that I was the MRA, Memphis Restaurant Association president at the time. And this is what I looked like every day with a microphone in my face, or somebody calling, how do I handle this? Or I'm in the meeting with the health department and both mayors, et cetera.
We were the same way. That's all we did for a year and a half, it felt like.
So because of all that, we decided, and I used to live right over here on White Station, and so I know the area well. And I said, well, if we're going to do it, let's put a little place in East Memphis, and
people can come pick up their barbecue, take it to go.
Come get a to-go sandwich, and then grab and go, kind of like curbside casseroles.
Yep.
So that's what we did. And no seats. We did have some bourbon barrels that you could sit at outside, and it's a cool place, and everybody that comes in there loves it. But when I said we stepchild it. In other words, we get so busy with the catering that once it ramped back up, and I've got my best guys making whatever's in there.
Yep.
And then we get busy. And case in point, a buddy of mine's working for me now that I grew up with, that we used to throw those parties in Germantown at, and he's getting his hip replaced tomorrow. And we're slammed this weekend, and we're slammed next week, and he's out. Yeah. And the other people can't do it by themselves, and I can't pull from those. So we're not going to be open next week. I mean, talking about, what do you do?
Yeah. Staffing's tough. What do you love about what you're doing right now?
As you can tell, I like food.
Yeah. And, no, man, I can't tell at all.
I'm blessed with my team, and have always been blessed with that team, even in as little turnover as we've had, or that we have. It's just a great group of folks, and talented, extremely talented. I'd put these chefs against anybody in town. And
that's awesome.
particularly do the events the way we do them and the number of things that we do.
That's great.
So it's fun to not have to worry about a whole lot, and sometimes you feel guilty because you slip off and maybe you are duck hunting or whatnot. Or
There's got to be some reward for the hard work you've put in for 27 years.
well, it's coming down the line.
That's
so.
right.
If there was one bit of advice for a future restaurant entrepreneur, what would that be?
Pay attention to what you're doing. The numbers count,
No way.
and I don't always.
You have
look
to
at
say that just when you're talking to an
I
accountant.
don't always look at the numbers. I'll be honest with you, but put your best foot forward. You're in the people business. Treat your employees right. Treat your clients and customers right. Don't give up. But if you have to turn the switch off, turn it off. Part of the challenges of business is figuring out when you need to, cut the rope. And Hog Wild East has been a great little fun place to be and experiment. I built it to move out in a day, and unfortunately, but making the right decision, we're going to close that store down in January 20th, and we'll figure out what the next step is. Right now, the catering is so powerfully strong. I don't know that we need to be in the brick and mortar restaurant
makes
side
sense.
of it right now. But we'll
I
have
mean, it was pretty much a temporary solution during, you had to pivot, right? So it makes a lot of sense that that's not the ongoing model you want to run.
No, it's not. And when I set up that lease, I originally said we'll do 5 years with 2 or 3 twos on the back. And then I went back to Loeb and I said, let's do a couple of 2s and a 5.
Yeah.
And that was a very smart decision on my end, and I appreciate them letting me do that. It wasn't last minute, but kind of after we had the ball rolling.
That's great.
It.
Well, wish you the best of luck for sure. I think that's a wise move, really.
Yeah.
So
Focus on the main and feeding everybody now.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys. This has been fun, and we appreciate what y'all do for us, and we'll see each other on the turn.
yeah,
Yes,
can't
sir.
wait. Let's do it.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Restaurant Grind. If you did, please hit that subscribe button and leave us a rating on your podcast player. Doing so helps our stories inspire more people in their restaurant grind journeys. We'll see you next week.